¡Uy! ¡Nos están invadiendo!
Geopolitics rarely announces itself loudly. Most of the time, it operates quietly, but occasionally it arrives as disruption. January 3rd, 2026. Early morning hours, Caracas wakes up. Not to a government statement, not to an emergency broadcast, but to an unfamiliar sound, an explosion. Not everyone hears it at close range. Some hear the echo, others feel only the vibration. Yet one thing is consistent. This is not a normal sound. At this hour, a capital city is usually at its most stable point. Low activity, low risk. When disruption occurs at such a moment, it signals that something is out of place. And this is where analysis begins. Not with who, but with why. Why now? Why here?
Mamá huevo, qué locura. No caí.
In any crisis, civilians are the first sensors, not radar systems, not intelligence services, ordinary people. Residents of Caracas received no prior context, no warning, no initial clarification, only sound. Some reported low-flying aircraft, others felt buildings shake. Then, power outages in several areas. In crisis analysis, darkness amplifies fear, because darkness means uncertainty, and uncertainty fills itself with assumptions. In the first hours, information does not compete with facts. It competes with imagination. For civilians, the core question is simple. Will this stop, or will it continue? That question alone is enough, because trauma does not require official confirmation. A state cannot remain silent for long under such conditions. Silence creates a vacuum of legitimacy. The Venezuelan government responded quickly. The language was firm, the wording precise. External aggression. The United States was named directly. Outside Venezuela, this response was seen as confrontational, even excessive. But within the logic of a pressured state, this was not emotional, it was strategic. By using the term aggression, Caracas shifted the incident from a technical matter to the domain of international law. That matters, because international law recognizes the right to self-defense. This narrative was not crafted for media headlines. It was aimed at diplomatic arenas. To understand Caracas, one must consider prior pressure. U.S.-Venezuela relations have long been unstable. Economic sanctions restrict financial systems. Trade access is limited. Political legitimacy is continuously challenged. At the same time, U.S. military presence in the Caribbean has increased. Officially, this is described as regional security operations. But perception is never neutral. From Caracas, this looks like gradual pressure, not a single strike, but a sequence of signals. Within this context, an explosion is not read as an accident. It is read as part of a pattern, and patterns matter more than isolated events.
Ay, no. Mira eso.
The Venezuelan military moved, but within limits. Alert status was raised, critical infrastructure secured, no offensive deployment, no outward maneuvering. This was deliberate. States seeking escalation behave differently. Venezuela did not. It chose control, not display. From a military analysis perspective, this signals internal prioritization, stability, error avoidance, and prevention of miscalculation turning into open conflict. From Washington, a response emerged, but it was restrained. Officials acknowledged incoming reports. Nothing beyond that. No extended press conference, no detailed technical explanation. This was not oversight. It was deliberate. In U.S. foreign policy, silence is often instrumental. It is called strategic ambiguity. Its function is simple, to preserve maneuvering space. But flexibility for one actor creates uncertainty for another. Within the United States, political reactions were divided. Some politicians emphasized regional security. Others focused on avoiding open escalation. There was no strong consensus. When consensus is absent, policy tends to become defensive. For Caracas, this did not provide reassurance. History between the two states offers little foundation for trust. In fragile relationships, absence of explanation deepens suspicion, not because of evidence, but because of memory. In geopolitical analysis, people usually appear last, yet they are the first to feel impact. Civilians do not read intelligence briefings. They read their surroundings, sound, vibration, darkness. In such moments, a sense of safety collapses faster than physical structures. Children wake up. Parents hesitate. There is no visible adversary, no immediate explanation. This produces collective anxiety, and collective anxiety is a long-term security issue. Because stable states require societies that trust, not only institutions, but tomorrow. Every incident that ignores this reality leaves invisible damage behind. Psychological wounds are not repaired through diplomatic statements. This is where Russia becomes relevant, not through direct force, but through positioning. Russia did not respond with threats, nor with military mobilization. Its response was political. Support for Venezuelan sovereignty, rejection of unilateral intervention. This matters because Russia does not speak from distance alone. Russia-Venezuela relations were built over time. Energy cooperation, defense collaboration, diplomatic coordination. This relationship is structural, not emotional. For Venezuela, it means one core reality, not isolation. For Latin America, it represents an alternative, not to replace one dominance with another, but to create balance. In a multipolar world, strategic friendship often matters more than immediate force. Caracas is not just Venezuela's capital, it is a symbol. Every crisis there is observed across the region because Latin America carries historical memory. Intervention, economic pressure, external influence, these are not abstractions. They are lived experiences. When Venezuela is pressured, other states quietly ask a question. Could this happen to us? That question alone reshapes regional political calculations. This is why the incident matters, not for its scale, but for its precedent. If pressure becomes normalized, sovereignty becomes conditional, and regional leverage erodes. The world is no longer unipolar, but transition is rarely silent. Every minor friction tests the boundaries of the new order. The Venezuelan case illustrates one point. Multipolarity is not a slogan. It is a difficult practice. Legacy powers must learn to share space. Emerging powers must learn restraint. Within this context, Russia is not only addressing Venezuela, it is addressing the international system. Unilateral pressure is no longer an uncontested norm. Crises rarely escalate because of intent. They escalate because of misinterpretation. One small incident, one ambiguous response, one flawed assumption, that is enough. This is the current danger, not open war, but unintended escalation. In such conditions, transparency becomes a stabilizing tool, not a weakness, but a necessity. This crisis is not over, but its direction can still be shaped through clarification, through dialogue, through respect for human security. The people of Caracas did not choose to become geopolitical symbols, yet they are caught within it. And this is where foreign policy must ultimately be judged, not by power projection, not by rhetoric, but by whether ordinary people can still feel safe. That is the true measure of stability.